Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to another random review. Today's random review is a relatively modern film for me. It's Story of My Death by Albert Serra, or Historia della Meva Mor, from 2013. This is a second run DVD. Unlike most of my random reviews, where I attempt, and most of the time fail, to wax lyrically about a film, this is a film that I liked, didn't love, was frustrated by at times, but also entranced at times. So this is a film that I wouldn't necessarily tell you to go rush out and buy or rush out and see, but if you happen to stumble across it, it might be of interest. It's one of those films that the detractors of art house cinema would probably hate. At times it's profound, other times it's quite dull, pretentious, languid, but at other times it's entrancing and quite beautiful. Like I say, this is a DVD, and it's a film that if Second Run released a Blu-ray of it, perhaps they already have. I'll have to check. I probably would upgrade it, even though it's a film that I wouldn't be watching very often, but I would still like an upgrade of it, because it is quite beautiful. It's very painterly. It will kind of remind you of Barry Lyndon a bit. There's lots of interiors with candle light, and that only seems to be the only source light there. Serra does use a lot of long static takes, again to get that feel of painterly expression in the film. I'll tell you a brief synopsis of the story, because there isn't really a story. Serra, who's Spanish, but I think he identifies more as a Catalan, and he's made films since, like The Death of King Louis XIV and Liberty, which again is around that same kind of period. He wanted to make a film about the things that happen at night, and whatever that entails. So we have a story where we meet the aging Casanova, the world famous lover, but he is on a bit. He's going bald, and even his wig that he wears isn't in great shape. And he takes on an assistant to teach him about art and literature and women and life. In most of the scenes in the first half of the film, we see Casanova eating or drinking or defecating. He does have one sex scene later in the film, which is quite funny. So this is Casanova past his prime, but still thinking he's an expert in life, basically. And this is one of my problems with the film. It spends too much time with Casanova at the start. The film itself is 144 minutes, which is way too long. I mean, I know I'm not selling it particularly well, but I did actually like the film, honest. But 144 minutes is way too long. But again, you might watch the film and think it's a perfect length, and that's absolutely fine. My opinion is not fact. It could have easily been half an hour shorter, to be honest. I think we do spend a little bit too much time with Casanova. I mean, again, there's a scene which lasts for a good 5-6 minutes of him sitting on the toilet or sitting on a chair with a bedpan attached and defecating, and chuckling to himself as he's defecating. And personally, I don't really think we need to see that for 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 minutes. But these are, I would say, minor quibbles, but for certain viewers will be major quibbles. And then we follow Casanova and his ward on a nice cart journey, and Serra just puts the camera in the back of the cart, and it's a really long, wonderful little trip through a forest, which is actually quite beautiful. And then we just get the graphic on the top of the screen that they are in the South Carpathian Mountains. And anybody who's watched old horror films will know that the Carpathians is somewhere near or the approximation of what we call Transylvania. And of course, in Transylvania, Dracula lives. We all know his address. So it's really, the film is an imaginary coming together of Casanova, well past his sell-by date, and Count Dracula. Now, Dracula is never named, but there's obviously some vampiric things going on. Now, if the film sounds pretty interesting, Casanova meets Dracula, sadly for me it doesn't quite live up to that premise, because again there's long periods of kind of languid futility, and again at times that is trance-like and that kind of works, and there's passages of conversations about writing and art and religion and poetry, which is all really good. But there's also excess, bloatedness, a turgidity to the proceedings at times, which again could just have been trimmed. It is a very self-indulgent film by Serra, I think. I haven't seen any of his other films, so I can't really judge on whether this is a common theme or not. The actor who plays Dracula, or this character, is really striking. It's one of the best imaginings of Dracula that I've seen. It's a really nice rendition of Dracula. He has not quite the Gary Oldman size of hair, but it's getting there. It's kind of between some of Christopher Walken's tallest hair and Gary Oldman's hair in Dracula. It's very large and bulbous, but it's black and it's pulled back, and he has a big bushy beard, and it just kind of works. There's some wonderful creepy moments. There's a beautiful shot where there's a woman kind of almost draped horizontally in a chair, and it's framed in the window, and then he just appears, his face in the window. It's an open window, and and then he's inside, and it's beautifully shot. Again, like I said, if second run have released this in Blu-ray, I'm not sure, but if they do, I probably would upgrade, even though, like I say, I didn't love the film, but I certainly loved sections of the film, if that makes sense. So the vampire stuff is done, again, it's not over the top or dramatic, excuse me, and the kind of rules of vampirism are just thrown out the window, because it doesn't matter, because this is not reality, you know, the way vampires are realistic. And again, it's more just a meditation on certain subjects. Again, there's a relationship between Casanova and his servant, and the three kind of quote unquote peasant girls that they meet, that obviously Dracula takes a shine to, and Casanova just sees them as objects and things to have sex with, and the Casanova's servant or ward, you know, develops feelings for one of them. But again, there's no particular plot machinations to anything. It is a very inconsistent film, but there are moments of really wonderful compositions, and again, it has that painterly look of Barry Lyndon or a Terrence Malick film, as far as, you know, obviously there's lots of nature and trees and water, so it definitely has that kind of look that I think on Blu-ray would certainly pop, and obviously you would see Casanova's poop would pop in high definition, so to speak. So that's Story of My Death by Albert Serra. Certainly an interesting film. Again, perhaps a little bit unusual for my random reviews, where I usually like or love the films a lot. Again, this one's hit and miss, but if you have some patience or you're in the right mood, there is some pleasure and insight to be had from it. The second run release, as usual, has a booklet, and it also has his 18-minute short, Cuba Libre, from 2013, which is his tribute to Rainer Werner Fassbinder, which is basically in a club with a couple of characters singing karaoke, and there's members in the club that look like characters from Fassbinder films. Because I haven't seen a lot of Fassbinder films, a lot of that short went over my head. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I think it might have a second run Blu-ray as well, but I'm not exactly sure. You can let me know in the comments if you've seen it, what you think of it, and what is the Albert Serra film that you would recommend. So this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, slightly bemused, saying farewell.